the countdown. 131. 131 days to the most important election of our lives. And it's becoming clear more and more each day that this election in November, it's not Democrat versus Republican. It's Trumpism versus American values. We saw that today with former 2016 GOP presidential candidate Carly Fiorina coming out and saying she's not supporting Donald Trump. She's supporting Joe Biden because he has compassion and leadership. It says a lot. Big news, though, COVID-19. It is sadly spiking in various states across the country. We're lucky in some states it's going down. New York, New Jersey, Illinois, and others. Many others it's going up. In fact, yesterday, when we began the show, I reported we had the highest uptick in daily reporting of cases, about 36,000 cases. By the end of the day of reporting, over 45,000 new cases of COVID-19 alone. That's the new record. It's a heartbreaking, sad new record. In the last 14 days alone, we've seen a 47% increase in the number of COVID-19 cases. Think about that. In the last 2 weeks, nearly a 50% increase in the number of COVID-19 cases. It's alarming and it's growing. It's getting so bad. In Texas, the governor there, Greg Abbott, has put a pause on the next reopening they were going to do. Also, he is saying, I'm asking all Texans to do their part to slow the spread of COVID-19 by wearing masks. But here's the thing, he will not mandate it. So they've already done voluntary measures and it's failing horrifically. Why won't he mandate it? It's part of the whole GOP Donald Trump mindset. The idea like if you ignore an issue enough, maybe it goes away on its own. It's not. COVID-19 is growing in 3 states alone today, Alabama, Missouri, and Nevada. They've reported new single-day highs. And Florida, the last 2 days, 5,000 new cases alone. How is Trump handling this? Well, one thing, and I'll share a little bit more details in a few minutes, but remember the movie Sixth Sense? The little kid said, I see dead people. We found out today, Donald Trump, his expression is, Trump sends checks to dead people. I'll explain that in a minute. But Trump's spokesperson, in response to new quarantine measures here in New Jersey, next state, Jersey, where I'm from, says Trump will not adhere to it. According to his spokesperson, the president of the United States is not a civilian. Again, Donald Trump tells us every day he is above the law. He believes he's above the law. He will show you that every day. That's exactly what's going on right now. He's also leading the fight against wearing masks. He had a rally last week, Saturday, no masks, no social distancing, and we're seeing it trickle down to his supporters. In Florida last night, I'll play some clips that are just simply stunning. 4 county commissioners there had Trump supporters who were waving a Trump flag. Some of them testified they oppose wearing a mask for various reasons. Some say it's against the teachings of God. Another attacked the credentials of a doctor, calling the doctor, in essence, a fake doctor, like fake news. Another said it was the devil's work. What can you do about that? Here's the reality, just so it's clear. According to the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, they are now estimating that nearly 180,000 Americans in total will die by October 1st. But, and here's the big but, if we wear masks universally, in public and in private, they estimate we can save 33,000 American lives. Isn't it worth it to save 33,000 lives to wear a mask when you're outside or when you're in office? At home, you do what you want. I get that. Should we care about our fellow Americans? And Trumpers are saying no. But then today we found out more bad news. Economically, every Thursday we get a report of unemployment benefits. Well, we found out 1.5 million more Americans filed for unemployment in the last week alone. This is now 14 straight weeks of filing of at least 1 million people filing for unemployment. It is stunning. We have the highest number of Americans on unemployment collecting benefits in the history of this nation. Trump likes to do things big. Well, he's succeeded here. And then we had a new report from the Government Accountability Office, which is nonpartisan. It's run by Congress. It's above board. They came out with a report twofold. First, very clear, the federal government, the Trump administration, was not ready for this virus. And the stockpile of protective equipment, ventilators. They were not ready. And the worst part is they didn't use the Defense Production Act, Trump, to make up for the shortfall. Second, and here comes the dead people part, folks, and this is stunning. According to GAO's report, the Trump administration sent coronavirus stimulus payments to 1.1 million dead people. That nearly cost us $1.4 billion. $1.4 billion to dead people. The Sixth Sense, I see dead people. Trump, I send dead people checks. Why did this happen? Because they rushed to get the check out there. They couldn't dot every I and cross every T. But let's remember this. They did spend enough time and delayed enough to make sure Donald Trump got a handwritten letter with the check sent to everyone. Remember that? But you couldn't check who you're sending the money to. And here's the worst part. While over 1 million dead people got checks, over 30 million living Americans have still not gotten their stimulus check. So over 1 million dead people get their checks because of the negligence and incompetence of the Trump Treasury Department. And over 30 million living Americans who desperately need this money still don't have it. So you ask, what is Donald Trump doing in response to this? We have nearly a 50% uptick in confirmed cases of coronavirus in the last 2 weeks. We have 1.5 million Americans who filed for unemployment in the last week alone. Now, 20 million Americans collecting unemployment. You have the GAO office talking about incompetence. And what's Trump's reaction? Did he focus on COVID-19? Did he focus on correcting the mistakes? Did he focus on an economic vision to create jobs? No. What did Trump do today? And I'm not exaggerating. He took time on Twitter to accuse Black Lives Matter of committing treason. I'll read the tweet. I'm not kidding. Donald Trump tweeted this afternoon, quote, Black Lives Matter leader states, if U.S. doesn't give us what we want, then we will burn down this system and replace it. Trump added, this is treason, sedition, insurrection. The Black Lives Matter leader saying what he did on TV. He even said, I was not being literal. We don't want any violence. But tearing down the system clearly does not mean violence. It's talking about a system of systemic racism. But what Trump is doing is a typical right-wing playbook, is find one example of one person in a minority group or a movement, and then use that grotesque caricature to define the entire movement. And then have policies based on that. For example, I'm Muslim. And Donald Trump, of course, used the worst Muslims out there to try to define all Muslims. He's done the same things with Hispanic immigrants. He's doing the same thing with Black Lives Matter and African Americans in general. That's why a new Washington Post poll showed today, Trump, in a matchup versus Joe Biden, Trump gets 5% of the vote. That is lower than what he got in 2016. He is losing the teeny amount of African American support he had. But it's stunning to think in the middle of this crisis, Donald Trump today is not tweeting about how to create jobs, how to address COVID-19. It's more white supremacist red meat to his base, accusing Black Lives Matter of treason, sedition, and insurrection. And here's the irony. The very people who are glorified in statutes, who were Confederate generals that Donald Trump defends almost daily, guess what they did? They committed treason, sedition, and insurrection. Not the Black Lives Matter protesters who are out there fighting for equality, fighting for simply the fact that Black lives should matter equally as white lives in this country. And for that, Donald Trump says treason. And just so it's clear, in the Constitution, treason is punishable by death. So today, Donald Trump is calling for death for Black Lives Matter. Now, will the average Trump supporter respond by trying to attack them? Probably not. But there was the MAGA bomber who responded. What will happen is Fox News and other Trump supporters will now regurgitate this bullshit and tell you Black Lives Matter. They want to destroy everything. They're treason. They're sedition. They want insurrection. They have to be put down. What Trump doesn't get, this is not 1968. Donald Trump is running Richard Nixon's 1968 campaign in front of us. That was a campaign where Richard Nixon talked about law and order all the time. That was a time when there were high racial tensions in the country. It's also a time where Richard Nixon talked about the silent majority, same as Trump. The difference is America's changed demographically. In 1968, when Richard Nixon ran that campaign, want to know what percentage of America was white in 68? About 85%. Black Americans were about 11%, Hispanic about 4%, Asian Americans less than 1%. Where are they now? Well, look, white Americans are only about 72, 73%. Black Americans about 13%. Hispanics, 18%. Asian Americans, over 5%. This nation has changed. And I got to tell you this, I'll read this as we wrap up and talk more on my show. I think what Trump doesn't get is the famous quote from Martin Luther King, which is now more relevant than ever. Martin Luther King said, and everyone knows the first part of this quote, but it's the second part that is so instructive. He said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." We've all heard that, but it continues. And MLK said, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." And what Trump doesn't get is that all these minority groups, together with our white allies, far outnumber the coalition that Richard Nixon could build in 1968, because America's changed. Donald Trump is not. And come November 3rd, we are going to tear down the newest statue to white supremacy that was erected in November 2016. And that statue, that memorial is Donald Trump. Come November 3rd, we're going to tear down that monument to white supremacy. So join me on the show. We have a great show tonight. Don Lemon's going to join me. We just did an interview right before the show. Talked about race a lot, talked about his new podcast. Also Congressman Harley Rhoda from California is joining us, as well as actor, very funny actor, Hank Azaria. Everyone knows him from The Simpsons. His new series on IFC, Brockmire series finales just aired. Talk to him and more, but more importantly, talk to you. You're my guest always in the first hour of the show. Come on over. Sirius XM, channel 127, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. If you don't subscribe to Sirius XM, you can generally get a free trial. Just go to the website, SIRIUSXM.com. Free trial. Tune into my show. Tune into all the shows. I hope to hear from you there. Email me if you want. Dean@deanofradio.com. Thanks for tuning into my little preview of tonight.